This is Blank You Should Watch, where I'll tell you what you should watch, why you should watch it, and what it's similar to. Let's go. Movies you should watch. Black Dynamite. What it is. Black Dynamite, a man who needs no introduction. Aside from this one, Black Dynamite is a badass to end all badasses. A former CIA operative, Vietnam veteran, and Kung Fu master. He aims to clean up the streets of drugs and find the man who killed his brother Jimmy. On his adventure, he discovers that the problems go deeper than he ever expected. He'll have to use all of his charm, wit, and kung fu skill in order to make sure the streets are a safer place for all, especially the orphans. Why you should watch it. In 2009, Black Dynamite was released upon the world, starring Michael J. White and directed by Scott Sanders. It's a parody film directed squarely at blaxploitation movies from the 70s. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with blaxploitation, it's an exploitation film starring African-American actors and directed towards an African-American audience. Films like Shaft and Superfly are some of the big names of this genre. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with exploitation films, it's a term for 60s and early 80s B-movies, which had low budgets and a lot of violence, sex, and gore. Notable films would be the original Mad Max, Night of the Living Dead, Assault on Precinct 13, and Death Race 2000. Now, this film is full of clever jokes and purposeful errors, like boom mics being in the shot, sloppy zoom-ins, and reused scenes. This film is over the top in all the right ways. There are so many small jokes that rewatching it is even more hilarious than the first time I watched it. The attention to the lack of attention to detail is amazing, and it's obvious how much hard work went into making this movie as hilarious as it is. On top of that, the dialogue is fantastic. It walks this thin line that makes Black Dynamite feel like a real blaxploitation film while also having superb comedic dialogue. There are lines that edge on badass and hilarious, and they just end up being hilariously badass. The delivery is always right on. There are plenty of scenes where the dialogue is delivered in a wooden or flustered manner, but those only serve as reference to the source material they are parodying. When lines are poorly delivered, it's always in service of the comedy of the film. This movie reminded me how much I loved parody films and that they can still be done. When I grew up, I used to watch movies like Spaceballs, Men in Tights, Airplane, and Monty Python's Search for the Holy Grail all the time. I loved these movies, and I still regard Search for the Holy Grail as my favorite movie of all time. But these were all a little before my time. If I ever wanted to watch something a little more modern, I'd be faced with watching trash like Epic Movie or the Scary Movie franchise. It made me feel like the format was dead, at least in the sense of films. Black Dynamite and Shaun of the Dead stand as my two favorite parody films since the turn of the century, and they are a bright beacon of what parody filmmaking can be. But probably never will be, since you can just make a shit ton of money while not even trying. What it's similar to. Black Dynamite is on a level with Airplane, Blazing Saddles, and Young Frankenstein, and how hilarious it is. Another obvious film to point to would be the legendary Naked Gun, as it's also a parody movie about a complex, over-the-top crime that our hero has to get to the bottom of. Their execution and comedy styles are fairly different though. The Naked Gun uses a lot more ridiculous jokes, like full-body condom suits and steamrollers crushing the villain, while Black Dynamite tends to be a little more grounded in its humor. It tries to feel like it could be an actual 70s blaxploitation film, and it succeeds in this quite nicely. If you've ever watched a blaxploitation film, or really any kind of low-budget 70s film, you'll appreciate how genuine it feels. It's very clear the people involved in this know their stuff when it comes to this genre. This isn't a requirement for all watching this movie, but if this is a genre you already know something about, then it will definitely increase your enjoyment in this film. Conclusion. You have to be a real fool to not want to see this movie. It is both hilarious and intelligent, and I know that parody movies like this are rare these days. This film delivers on all levels, and you are doing yourself a disservice by not seeing it.
We've been doing this for so long, and yet it's come to this. We feel you've been treating us wrong, yet you sit there and insist. No, you two are great. Why don't you just wait? Just know this, there is no hate, but let me translate. We wish you the best of luck.